Never back down from a challenge, keep pushing forward. This motto still guides her 17 years after she set about creating a local water brand that's become a household name, Lifespan. Her own lifespan about surmounting personal and professional challenges. My guest is Nayana Williams, the award-winning founder and chief executive officer of Lifespan Spring Water. I'm Archibald Gordon, and this is Profile. Nayana Williams, welcome to Profile.
Thank you for having me.
It strikes me that your work in the water sector, mirrors your upbringing in just outside, in a small community, just outside Anata Bay, St. Mary.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
All right, so I grew up in a small district called Markingstone, just outside of Anata Bay in St. Mary. And I lived with my grandmother up until I was 6 years old. And then my parents, and there were 7 of us, 4 girls, 3 boys. And it was a regular Jamaican, typical Jamaican life. It was us going to river, having cookouts, playing with the neighborhood kids. That was my childhood.
Your mother, you said, was very quiet, a homemaker.
Yeah.
And your dad, although your mother was a role model in and of herself, your dad was the one that you said, had such an impact on you as a young person.
Right, because I was more interested in what my father was doing. He worked with the National Water Commission. He was a parish manager, and I used to travel to Port Antonio with him in the mornings, and he would drop me off at school. After school, I would go to his office, and that's where I would do my homework. And I would just hang around the office and just learn stuff and volunteer. And yeah, so that was most impactful for me.
What was he teaching you? What was he saying to you? What were you learning about?
I learned about the water distribution system, for the parish of Portland. I visited water plants. I picked up on different conversations that they were having regarding business, regarding operations and maintenance. And so I was able to pick up on a lot of stuff growing up.
And this is a teenager. You're learning about water distribution.
Right, right.
So he was talking to you about what? Pipes? About
pipes, the connection, from Charlestown to, for the Windsor Castle plant, So it was like, this was part of our regular conversation on a daily basis.
And you've said that sort of had an impact on you in terms of a vision you had early on about what you wanted to do.
Right. So at one point, I was maybe 13 years old, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own private water company. That just came up in my mind, and then it stayed there. I didn't think about it again. I continued with life, and but then, it so happened that now I've started my own bottled water. Well, 17 years ago, I started my own bottled water company.
No, it's funny that you went down this path, because initially you went to Titchfield High School, studied business, and then when you decided to further your studies, go overseas to California to college, you were not doing anything to do with water. What were you doing and why?
Well, starting college, I started going to a computer college because I was of the mind that I wanted to do computer programming. So even though I switched from the arts in high school to doing business, my last year of high school, that was in 5th form. But when I went on to college, I went on to pursue computer technology. So maybe like quarter way into that, I decided to switch back to business again. So that's what I did. I pursued business. I first got a diploma in accounting, then I got a degree in business management, and then I pursued a bachelor's degree in business administration. And I I decided that I wanted to get an MBA, so I started pursuing an MBA, and then I switched out of that. Well, I kind of stopped, and then I went back and pursued a master in law.
But you haven't been a lawyer. You haven't
No,
worked with law.
I haven't practiced law.
Haven't practiced law.
No, I haven't.
So what? And you felt all along that this was sort of natural when you moved from computer into business. This was your fit.
Yeah, I think so, because it was like, you know, this is what I loved to do. You know, I was always in that office environment where my father worked at, and it was just something that I gravitated to. So I was always interested in business, in what, everything that had to do with business. That was what I loved. So I naturally gravitated towards that.
So you were pursuing this business path, this academic path.
Yeah.
And then in between, came back to Jamaica for a while.
Yeah.
Got pregnant, got married, and a complete sort of change occurred as a result.
Yeah, so when I came back, I started working at a printery. Also even did a little modeling. But I got pregnant, and so, I had my daughter. She was born with, she was developmentally delayed, so she was a special child. And that was a turning point for me in my life again, because, I got married after she was born to my husband, Elizabeth's father, Devon. And, this was a new thing for us, because, having a disabled child, it took me a while to really understand what that meant. And I think it was maybe 6 months down the road, I finally accepted that my daughter will never be like a regular child. So I had to come to terms with that. And when I came to terms with that, I was, I wanted to do everything in my power to help her to progress. So I decided that I was going to take her to a different country, somewhere where she would get the therapy that she needed.
How was she different? How was she different?
Well, she had her fine motor skills were not developed. When I was pregnant with her, she was turning, and the umbilical cord got wrapped around her neck. So the oxygen supply got cut off, and so she was brain damaged. And because of that, she was functionally disabled, physically disabled, and mentally disabled. So she could not do things for herself. I mean, like a normal child would grow and learn to walk, to crawl, walk, and stuff like that. She was delayed in doing those things. So I decided that I would try to go and get help for her. So I took her to California.
You said no, and I still hear a little bit of the sound in your voice, but that moment sounds as if that was just a lot. How were you making that decision?
It was a lot, but I did not see any way, like being here in Jamaica, and we could not afford it. What therapy was available was extremely expensive. And I know that there were programs in California. I was told about them. I researched myself, and I found out about some of them. And, I had to decide. I mean, it meant that I would have to leave my husband here in Jamaica, because he wasn't interested in migrating. And, but he agreed. He agreed, let's take Elizabeth to California and get her the therapy that she needed. And that's what I did.
At the same time, you had a bit of family support in California.
I did. My mother lived there. Several of my brothers lived there. My sisters also, they were there. So I left and went to my mother's, to live with my mother and sisters. And, that was a huge support for me, because they assisted me with Elizabeth. So when I enrolled Elizabeth in special ed school, my sisters would come home from their classes, and they would collect her from the bus and stay stay with her until I got home from work.
And meanwhile, you're working, but we have to go to the break, and I want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
The work that you were doing in order to make this, to make it happen for your daughter and for your family overall.
Right.
We are going to be taking now a break on Profile. My guest is award-winning author, philanthropist, and chief executive officer of Lifespan Springwater, Nayana Williams. We're back after these messages.